If there was one thing the world was asking for, it was for one more podcast about CrossFit. Well, here we are anyways. This is the Silverback Media Podcast, where we share the stories of the everyday CrossFitter, so that more people are encouraged and empowered to try it themselves. Here's your host and everyday CrossFitter, Marco Mejia.
What is happening, Silverback Media crew? We are back this week with episode 9. On the show this week, we have Rachel D. Rachel is a member at CrossFit North Scottsdale. She recently started with us about 3.5 months ago. She had only recently found CrossFit just a slight bit of time before that, so we have someone on that's early on in their CrossFit journey, which is awesome to hear. You hear all of her background and upbringing around physical activity and fitness. But also the big piece of it that I want you to stick around for is how she found CrossFit, what she thought about CrossFit before she tried it for herself, but ultimately what led her to CrossFit and how she found healing, we'll say, mentally and emotionally through CrossFit, and how that has then impacted the rest of her life just in the short period of time that she's found it, and how realizing that within CrossFit, the benefits of consistency and just continuing to show up day in and day out and putting in the work has been something that resonated with her and has had an impact on her outside of the four walls of the gym. Then after that, really cool spin and twist to the story. We talk about the fact that Rachel is actually leaving CrossFit North Scottsdale, but it's to pursue a different career opportunity, that CrossFit is going to continue to be a part of her life after that. So that's enough for me. While I got you though, go ahead, do all the things that make the robots happy. Follow the show, either Apple, Spotify, go to subscribe on YouTube, go follow the page on Instagram. Give me all the clicks, all the things that the robots appreciate, because you know they're listening, you know they're watching, and we want to make sure that we keep them happy for a little while longer. All right, that's enough for me. That is 11 down, 10,000 to go. Let's go talk to Rachel.
All right, Rachel, how are you?
I am doing wonderfully. How are you doing?
Wonderfully for a Friday, lead on a Friday.
Absolutely.
All right. So let's get into it, because so kind of jumping right into, we'll kind of backtrack to the beginning of your story. Part of what I want to have you on, we were talking about like work, kind of career. Would you call it a career change that you have coming up?
Yeah, I think that's probably a good word for it.
Good for it. Okay. And between that and then we're kind of talking about like your time in CrossFit, which has only been a few months, right? It hasn't been very long that you've been
like
actually doing CrossFit.
3.5 months, I think, around there.
3.5 months. Okay. All at CrossFit North Scottsdale. Woo. So yeah. Okay. So that was where we were talking, and then that kind of sparked us to get on here because, and we'll get into the career change a little later on, but that was, for anybody listening, that's what kind of sparked this. So, but let's backtrack first. So I want to hear about the young Rachel. Were you active? You play sports? Were you just running around getting in trouble? What was young Rachel getting into?
Well, all of the above, probably. But yeah, definitely super active. I'm the youngest of 3, and so my older brother and older sister played sports, and all the like basketball, t-ball, soccer, all of that. And I don't know if this is true. It's rumored that I dribbled a basketball before I walked, which I don't think that's true. But that's what my parents would claim happened. So I have no idea. But definitely was around. Was really active growing up. Any team sport I wanted to be a part of. I think I loved being active, loved hanging out with friends. And so when those two kind of collided in sports, would do that. So did pretty much everything. Basketball, soccer, softball, track, rode horses for a short scooch of time. And so pretty much if there's anything going on, I wanted to be a part of it and usually participated.
Nice. Did you ever kind of pick one and say like, all right, I'm going to kind of go a little bit more all in on this one? Or did you kind of, get a rotation or a variety and keep that variety throughout?
Yeah, in high school, definitely specialized in basketball. Knew that's what I wanted to do. And, that's kind of the time where you had to pick, where seasons started coinciding with each other. And so yeah, I played basketball and then ran track in the off season to just kind of stay in shape and stay active. But those were definitely the two that I was like, okay, I know I love these. And I think probably at the beginning a little bit had to do with like I had friends who were doing it too, and that linked to part of the decision. But yeah,
exactly right. That group aspect, obviously the team aspect, right? And basketball and track, both team sports. but in different ways, right? Track
For
is,
sure.
unless you're running like relays and things, right? The competition itself is more individual, but it's still a team,
Yeah,
team dynamic. So yeah, no, that's cool.
absolutely.
Did when you were playing sports, how did fitness, exercise? I mean, obviously, I'm sure, especially with track, right? There were workouts you were doing, things like that. Did you enjoy that part of it? Did you just kind of see like, oh, this is just kind of part of the deal, right? If I want to be a part of these sports and these teams, I kind of got to do it, or did you enjoy it at all?
It's a great question. Yeah, I think at the beginning, probably like thinking junior high and maybe freshman year is kind of like,
Mm.
okay, there are these parameters you have to meet if you want to be a part of the team. And then there's the kind of optional things, like, okay, you can come to open gym in the summer or you can play fall basketball if you want. And I actually really remember the summer after my freshman year kind of realizing like, okay, if I actually want to excel at this and do better at this, um, putting in the extra work's a pretty necessary evil of that. I thought it was a necessary evil, ended up being a beautiful thing. Um, but yeah, and so I think that's when I realized like, okay, if I go and work out with my friends in the summer and play pickup basketball with my friends in the summer, that makes whenever fall comes around or winter come around, oh yeah, okay, this doesn't feel like we have to shake off months of rest. It's like, no, we've been here and and it made it more fun. I think whenever you kind of stay in the zone, it's like, oh, this is actually really enjoyable to try to actually get to the next level and continue to optimize, performance.
Well, and it's funny too, even how you said it probably pretty well correlates to how it worked for you, right? Where like a kind of started as you felt like a necessary evil and then turned into a blessing as you began to appreciate
Yeah,
and probably see the results of it.
totally.
So it was funny how you talked about it that way and then how it actually kind of turned out that way too.
Yeah,
Um, did you
absolutely.
did you oh sorry, go ahead. Read it.
No, no, I was just saying absolutely. I think
Yeah.
it did kind of do that natural evolution where it's like, oh, it's fun to wake up at 6 a.m. and go work out with your friends, because that like you'll get better as a team.
Yeah, exactly. And so when did kind of basketball track, when did that start to when did you get to a point that it was like, okay, may not be able to take this much further? Was that at the end of high school? Did you play past high school at all?
No, so high school is definitely where you kind of have the decision of I certainly couldn't play any like D1 or anything like that. I blame it on my height, but I just couldn't play D1 basketball. And you could kind of look at different options, but I think I wanted to go the more just traditional route. But I went to Texas A&M University and they kind of
Cool.
have these like tiers of intramural and like club sports. And so I
Nice.
played, it wasn't the top intramural league, but it wasn't the bottom one. So we got to play like UT and, we would
Oh,
play
dang.
against other schools and stuff like that. And so that was my freshman and sophomore year.
Okay.
And then that kind of team that we all kind of randomly found each other, but that team kind of dispersed after sophomore year. So that's when it really like that kind of stopped.
Gotcha. So then after that, which that's really cool. Is that I guess would that be considered like club
Yeah.
like I don't know what the or I mean you mentioned it was like an intramural thing, but yeah, I don't know if it
Yeah.
because I'm trying to think of like the yeah.
I think technically it was competitive intramurals. I would
Okay.
same club sounds more legit, and I would love to say that, but I'm sure if anyone heard that, it'd be like that wasn't club,
You're like,
it was
you're like
intramurals.
they're yelling at us right now. Like that's not what that was. All right, fine, sorry.
Yeah.
Um, cool. So then, okay, so after that wrapped up, so that's sophomore year of college, right? That
Yeah.
wraps up. Team kind of disperses. What does then your, because up until that point, right, through high school, and I'm assuming to a certain extent through those first couple of years of college, your kind of fitness exercise routine was tied to performance on the court, right?
For
So
sure.
then after that kind of wound down, how did that look for you? How did your exercise routine, fitness routine? Obviously, you're in the back couple of years of college, right? Which
Yeah.
depending on depending on the variety of person that's listening to this, the last couple of years of college could have gone a bunch of different ways. So for you, how did that look from like fitness exercise perspective? Did you maintain a routine or did it kind of, where did it go from there?
Yeah, so definitely I knew at that point, like being active, I think when you're active that long, it's like, okay, I know this is a part of the core of who I am, but I
Yeah.
think I definitely felt lost after that. It was like, okay, I guess I just sign up for a gym and like go to the gym. And I remember the the first few times like running on the treadmill and like walking over to the dumbbells and being like, is this like this is what other people are doing? I guess this is what I'll do too. And I ran like I had some friends who would go on long runs, and I signed up. I did a marathon and I didn't train at all for it, and I couldn't. I thought I it was like 2 days after, and I still could barely walk. And I was like, oh, I did a bad thing. This was a this was a mistake.
We're gonna put that on the fun fact list with dribbling a
Yeah.
basketball before you walked. Yeah.
Yeah, one of those is confirmed true. One of those is I have no idea.
Like
Um,
we're sort of sure.
yeah. But yeah, so I would like it was nothing consistent. I would go to the gym, do some stuff, but I was never sore. It's hard to I don't it was hard to motivate yourself. No one was there, to lovingly call you out if you didn't show up. And so I would say I was active, but it certainly wasn't consistent, and it didn't scratch the itch, as it were, of like, okay, I'm really like doing something. And yeah.
That makes sense. Yeah,
Yeah.
especially like you weren't a part of like the team activity anymore, right? So like how did that aspect of it work for you? Because you had the workouts, you had the team aspect of it all through your kind of
Yeah.
basketball career. That winds down. So obviously the fitness component, right? We just talked about kind of like had some lack of motivation and things like that.
Yeah.
How did the kind of not having the team aspect then, how did that impact whether it was your fitness life, but also like outside of that, right? Like I feel just myself coming from a team sport background too, I
Yeah.
know that when that ended for me, that was tough in more
Yeah.
ways than just the fitness aspect, right?
Yeah.
How was that? How was that for you?
Yeah. I do think it's something that's like not talked about a lot, that it's you're kind of a part of this team. And then when that's not there, it's like, oh, okay, we have to like find this in other ways.
Right.
And I do think community aspect, like I had a really solid group of friends in college and had like, like church groups I was a part of. So there's still community, but it's different when you're not like linked arms walking towards something together, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I think that definitely, and I think that kind of manifested itself in like, okay, yeah, I'll do intramural soccer, or I'll do I worked at a physical therapy place and they had like a middle-aged people softball league, and I did that, because I was like, okay, I like just something to kind of have that routine, and to be able to work towards something together, I guess. But it definitely is it's a loss, I think, for sure, whenever team sports end.
Well, for sure, right? And then it's almost like this search, so to speak, right, for something to like. And I mean, you kind of use this phrase, right? Scratch that itch a little bit,
Yeah.
right? At least for me, and I don't know if it's for you. And this is fast forwarding a little bit, but I'm not going to get too far ahead. That's what CrossFit helped with me,
Totally.
right?
A little
So
foreshadowing. That's
yeah,
right.
little, the little, yeah, putting the what cart before the horse. Yeah. So okay, so that kind of gets you through college. So where did you after college? Where does that take you?
Yeah.
So obviously now you're in the working world. There's no, I mean, I guess there's sort of like intramural. It's not organized intramurals in real life, but
Yeah,
there's different leagues and stuff. So yeah. So
totally.
where does that leave you after college?
Yeah, so I moved, that's when I moved out to Arizona, um,
Okay.
right after college. And so didn't know anyone moving out here. And I think it kind of was
What brought
reminiscent.
you?
Yeah,
Sorry to cut you. What brought you out to Arizona? Was that
it
like
was,
was it work?
yeah, I had lots of plans and lots of ideas of what things were going to look like. And instead of those things happening, I had gotten an email from an insurance company well, they're actually in New York, but they were hiring out in Arizona. And I think candidly, at the time, not now, my view is much different now. At that point, I was like, insurance in Arizona sounds like two things I don't understand why anyone would choose to do either of those two things. I was like, that sounds awful. Um, but no, it just kind of like the doors kept opening. I'd interviewed for this job. Yeah, I think, the doors were opening and just kind of stepped through it. And, you kind of blink and you're like, oh, okay, now I live in Phoenix, Arizona. And I landed on, I think it was August 19th of 2019. And the pilot, it was like 11 p.m. And he was like, hi, welcome to Phoenix. It's 117 degrees. And I was like, turn this thing back around,
Like,
buddy.
sweet. and
Like I
that's coming
quit.
from Texas too, right? Which is not a cold place by any means.
No,
Like that is, it's not
it's not.
117 hot, but
Yeah.
it is. Yeah,
117 just sounded fake. I felt like I was in a simulation. It was like, this is all of this is bad. I wanna turn around.
I hope that pilot chimed in with it, but don't worry, it's a dry.
He did. He did.
He
And
did.
everyone
Okay,
laughed.
great.
And I kind of looked
Yes.
around and was like, oh, they're all crazy. They're all crazy.
Yeah. Like they all know exactly what we're walking into. Yeah. So okay, so you said so that was 2019,
Yeah,
right? So now you're, in the real world, so to speak, right?
totally.
Moved to Arizona.
Yeah.
So kind of somewhat similar theme now, right? You kind of have this coming off of the team sports, right?
Yeah.
Looking for that, finding ways to find that group aspect, that community aspect. Now you finish college and you've moved what, 3 states over, right?
Yeah.
So again, kind of similar vein there. Now you're in a new place, new
Yeah.
career. So where does that leave you? We'll kind of stay more specific at like the fitness side of things, right?
Yeah.
Like now you're in a totally new place. It's a crazy hot outside, so it's not like you're running marathons unless that was
Yeah.
when you ran your untrained marathon. But what did that look like for you, especially as you got into the workforce?
Yeah, I think it was kind of what you said. Like I'd been there before, in college, kind of not sure what to do. So I guess you join a gym, you whatever. And so that's what I did. I found the closest gym near my office and it's like, okay, like I'll just at that point I didn't know really anyone. So it's like, okay, I'll go to work and go to the gym. It's a good time to just kind of hone in and do that. Um, and I liked it. I liked the routine of it. And I don't know, I'm sure you can relate. I think even in like high school, when you could have a really bad day and then go to practice and be like, oh, I can just kind of turn everything else off and just do this, like do what's in front of
Oh yeah,
me. And I think that's kind of been a common theme. And so it was a bit similar at that gym, even if it still wasn't, I was like, okay, this is not necessarily like something I'm passionate about, but I know it's a way to just kind of turn everything else off for like an hour.
yeah.
So did that and it was great, but that was August of 2019. Then COVID hit, right? Like 7 months
Oh
later. And so,
yeah.
and it's still like the rhythms hadn't really set in of just like actual life. And so when that happened, I was like, oh my goodness. I was like, I have no idea. Um, and so that kind of took a fun turn. I'd gotten on Facebook Marketplace and found a bike. I was like, I'm gonna start biking. And
Yes.
then it was March, so it's like the good time of Arizona, the golden months. And so I would bike and then I would run. And I was like, oh, okay, I think if you bike and you run and you swim, I think there are races for that. And I think that would be fun. So started getting into triathlons for like, I think it was like 2.5 years, like just
Oh,
loved doing
nice.
those. And that's kind of what I focused on. And it was kind of the idea of like having a goal or a vision and like a
Yeah.
structured plan to get there. So yeah, that's what I did for like, I guess from 2020 until like the summer of 2022.
Oh, dang. Okay, so you had a good
Yeah.
good stretch there. How many triathlons did you do?
That's a good question. So I did some sprints. The
Okay.
first, yes, yeah, some sprints. And then once I was like, okay, this is fun. I want a little bit more of a challenge. Started doing the Olympic ones, which part of that is swimming in Tempe Town Lake, which I think is it was a transformative experience. And I think I smelt like Tempe Town Lake for years to come.
Oh no.
It was awful. Um, and then yeah, and then I wanted to work my way up to a half Ironman, so I did that in Idaho the summer of 2022,
Idaho's a
which was
good choice.
awesome.
Yeah. Arizona, not a
Yes.
great choice. Yeah. Wait, what's the Olympic distance on the triathlons?
Oh, okay. I'm gonna get this somewhat skewed. This is in the ballpark.
Okay.
Okay, you swim, I believe it's, oh, I'm gonna get this wrong. 1.2 miles, I think.
Damn.
You
Okay.
bike, um, oh goodness, I'm embarrassed. This is me under pressure,
Well,
not knowing what I'm doing.
you're gonna.
You
I'm gonna
should,
look. I'm gonna look this up while you're
that
while you're.
that
While,
might save us. My guess is 1.2 fifth. No, you should look it up. That's how I
okay.
feel
Here,
like
I
we
got it.
should
I got it.
plan.
Yeah. So okay, it's they give me kilometers and miles. 1.5 kilometer swim, so it's just shy of a mile. It's
Okay,
0.93 miles.
you
Then a 40 kilometer bike, which is
20.
24.8 miles, and then oh crap, I clicked the link. That's not good. And then 10 kilometers, which is 6.2 miles.
Okay, yes.
Damn.
Um, yeah, I would have gotten none of those numbers right, so thanks for saving all of us
Yeah,
time.
you're close. You're up. It's all good. This is the magic of the internet.
Yeah, totally.
Cool. So
Yeah,
okay, so then that takes you. So that was 2020 through like 2022. You said right that you were
yes.
focused on triathlons. Okay.
Yeah,
At what point, and maybe it hadn't happened yet.
yeah.
At any point in there, had you heard about CrossFit? Had it started to kind of work its way into your sphere, into your purview of like, what is that thing going on over there? What is that thing they call the CrossFit?
Yes. So yes, and it's sad. I like sad now to think about this because I knew one person in college who did CrossFit, and all of his friends would give him like a bunch of grief about it, or like a bunch of stereotypical CrossFit things. And so I didn't even look, I didn't look further than that. I was like, yes, I also think all these things about CrossFit. And
Like, I don't want to get made fun of by my friends. I'm not gonna do
yeah,
that thing. Yeah. Okay.
but the what I did notice was like, he's also stronger and in better shape than any of us. So I don't know why we're all giving him crap about this. Um, but that was really my only. I knew someone in high school who I think did it. Um, it was my friend's boyfriend who had done CrossFit, and so I knew he did it, and then I knew the stereotypes about it, and was just kind of like, yep, that's also what I think, even though
What
I
are
had
what? Oh, sorry.
no,
Didn't mean to
no,
cut you off.
no, you didn't. You go.
What were you mentioned you had some of those stereotypes that you were aware of. What were those?
Hey, quick interruption from me. I hope you're enjoying the episode so far. If you are, I have a favor to ask of you. The main way that this thing can continue to spread is through word of mouth. So if you're enjoying this episode, send it to someone or share it with someone that may benefit from it or enjoy it as well. Leave a comment, drop a 5-star review, follow the show, share about it on social media. That's the main way that we can help get this message out to others so we can continue to spread this, okay? I'd really appreciate it if you do that. And now let's get back to the show.
Yeah,
Curious.
it's funny now to because it's funny now to think of them. But one is that people would always get injured.
Okay.
Um, and two was that people were too intense. And then three was that it was like a cult, which is so funny because I finally have asked someone about that. I'm like, why do you think it? Because people, a couple of friends have like made little jabs. Why do you think it's a cult? And they're like, well, everyone loves it and talks about it, wants to hang out with people from it all the time. And I was like, I'm failing to see the bad parts. That
You're like,
sucks.
what's so wrong with that?
Like,
Right?
it's awesome.
It's
Um,
funny. I heard someone say, I don't heard this. I wish I did. I heard someone say that the cult is the root word of culture. So any
oh
group of
wow,
people, yeah, I know.
that's crazy.
Hopefully that's actually true because I've just held on to that
Sounds right.
since I heard it.
Yeah,
So it's like in theory, based by that logic, any group of people that has some sort of culture behavior tied around being a part of that group, by definition,
yeah,
would be a cult.
totally.
Then there's
Yeah,
obviously like there's the I don't know if you want to call it societal component of like what we decide to call a cult and label a cult has a negative
right.
connotation to it. So it's
Yeah,
like, in theory, any group of people that behave in a similar way because they're a part of this group is a cult.
yeah,
We've decided that we use that term to mean that's a bad thing.
for sure. That's super
Yeah.
interesting. My brain has never made that connection that like cult is part of the word culture. That's crazy.
Yeah, mine either until someone said it. I'm like, oh crap, okay, I guess we are a cult, by that definition. That's nice.
Yeah,
But I'll take it, right? There's a lot worse, you know,
yeah,
cults to be a part of. So, okay,
absolutely.
those are some interesting stereotypes. I feel like that's very common,
Yeah,
common things that are heard, right? And then so, having had all that in mind, at some point you decided, well, I'm aware of these things. I'm aware of these things that people say. I'm aware that I know someone that would just get made fun of by their friends for doing this
yeah.
thing. I'm gonna go try it anyways. So talk me through what was that story like? How did that go?
Yeah. Um, this probably will sound a bit dramatic, and I don't mean it to, but it's also kind of true. So
Yeah.
I'll make this a very short story. But so I was living in the Middle East for the past almost 3 years. Um, and at the end of last year and beginning of this year, it was a very just like kind of tumultuous and dramatic end to that season, or to that specific time of life. And it was super unexpected. And it was like every aspect, like the house I was living in, the job I had, different friendships, relationship, security, like all of that was just kind of, it was like ripped out in one really fell, pretty dramatic swoop. And I stayed in like a different place than where I was currently living to just kind of figure some stuff out. But there was some collateral damage that was happening through those couple of months. So it was very much a turn off and just to get through it, like just kind of get through this until I can be back home. And so I was coming home maybe in like March of this year, and friends and all these people were like, hey, like you need to deal with what happened, and you need to like heal from what happened. And I met with a counselor on the way back, and she was like, you need to heal. And I was like, right. I was like, everyone keeps saying that. I was like, I know that sounds like a great idea, but I have no idea how to do that. And I asked her, I was like, can you just tell, like, scientifically from a therapist perspective, what's the first step of this? And she was like, you just need to do, she's like, you need to do a workout where you can just get mad. And I was like, okay. I was like, cool. Like that's a small actionable task. I can do that. That sounds great. And so I'd landed back in Dallas, where my family's from. I was going to be there for a couple weeks. And I tried out some like boxing classes, some just like some various free trial classes around town that in my head I thought kind of fit that definition. And none of it just, I was kind of like, man, the whole thing was I just like kind of kept ruminating on what had happened, and I was like, this isn't helping that. I'm just thinking about it while I'm boxing, and I'm stressed about boxing now. And so I was just gonna do like a public commercial gym for a couple weeks before coming back out to Arizona. But about a half a mile away from my parents' house, there's a CrossFit gym, and it said like come like a free trial class. And I was like, you know what? That's one less day I have to pay for a gym membership. I was like, that sounds great. So I was like, you know what? I didn't even think about the stereotypes. That wasn't even in my head. But I went in and I did a class and I left. And I remember thinking, it's like, that is the first hour that I was not thinking about how stressed out I was or how freaked out I was or whatever. I was thinking about what are handstand push-ups and why are all these middle-aged men doing them perfectly? I'm so confused. I was like, I do not understand what's happening. And I loved it. It's like,
that is awesome.
It's like, and so I was in Dallas for a couple weeks. And so I actually did 2 weeks of CrossFit at that gym. And the guy who ran that and owned it, he was like, wherever you go in Arizona, he's like, find a CrossFit gym and just like keep doing this. And the stereotypes meant nothing after that. I was like, on it, great. Say it's a cult, say it's intense, say people like whatever. Great.
I mean, Kool-Aid has been drank. We're in. That is such an incredible story, and thank you for sharing. Obviously, too. I mean, that's that sounded like it was a very trying time that lasted for a long stretch, and to know that just which I have like 3 questions off of that. I didn't want to cut you off, so we can just hit them quick. One, what was the name of that gym in Dallas?
Do you remember? Checkpoint CrossFit.
Checkpoint CrossFit. All right, Checkpoint CrossFit. Shout out.
Daryl's the coach. He's a homie.
Daryl.
Yes.
2, do you remember what the first workout was? You mentioned handstand push-ups.
Yes, which I did nothing of that. I don't know. I think I probably did normal push-ups. I remember 2 of the exercises. One was farmer's carry, which I think the sentence I'm about to say is just sums up CrossFit. I saw it and I was like, that's pretty easy. It's like, give me the heavy kettlebell. Like, this is gonna be simple. And then once I was 5 meters in, it's like, well, both of my forearms are on fire and take your kettlebells back. I can't. This is as far as I'm going.
Like, I have made a mistake.
Yes. And then burpees. And I think I got 2 burpees in. And I was like, okay, this is awful. Yeah.
Jeez. Okay, that's a good combination. And then
Yeah.
this is, I guess, not a question, more of a comment, but shout out to that counselor.
Yeah,
That's a great piece of advice. Obviously, like the counselor didn't
totally.
specifically say CrossFit, but just the idea of like go do some it almost sounded like, and I mean, I don't know, you tell me if this is how you interpret it. It's like go do something so hard that you have no choice but for your mind to have to focus on the thing you're doing and nothing else.
Totally. It's spot
Yeah.
on. Yeah.
Yeah. That's awesome. So how now as you've gotten into it, because obviously okay, so now you did the 2 weeks at Checkpoint CrossFit, you
Yeah.
move to Arizona, you find CrossFit North Scottsdale, you
Yeah.
come in there, right? Hey, I'm gonna brag on us, right? Got the shirt.
Absolutely.
So now you've been there for you said
Yeah.
3.5 months. Do you still feel that same benefit that you were initially looking for?
Oh my goodness. Yeah. I could I
Yes.
could talk about that for like the next 12 hours. So I will. Yes,
No.
I sure
No,
do.
yeah, I was gonna say, I'm like, we can go into that too, right? Because
Yeah.
and I mean, jokingly, but also seriously, because there may be somebody listening to this that might be in a very similar situation, right? That's
Yeah.
in a really, really tough time
Yeah.
in whatever it is they're going through, and they're sitting
Yeah.
there and they can't help but think about that nonstop. And how am I
Totally.
going to get through this? And I'm kind of picking that up based on how you described it, right?
Yeah.
Um, and so, if this is something that helped you through that time,
Yeah.
that might be a person that might have those same stereotypes of CrossFit too, and just think like,
Yeah.
oh, these people are crazy doing these muscle ups and going on their hands. What the hell are they doing, right?
Yeah.
And but it's beyond that, right? It can be
Yeah.
beyond that. There's obviously physical benefits,
Yeah.
um, but it's yeah, I'm kind of riffing. I don't know that I necessarily have a question for you, but if there's
Yeah.
anything else that comes to mind on that topic from
Yeah.
from how it's helped you, yeah, I'd love to hear
Totally.
it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the best way that I can kind of like try to make that, try to sum it up, is actually, it feels poetic that it's like you doing this podcast because it was something you said the first time I was ever in one of your classes. And it
Great.
was, so it was probably late April and it was whatever workout it was. It was some like 4 round thing where there's 12 pull-ups involved. And I was like, this, I hate that I can't do that. And, I was doing ring rows and I was like, like I can barely, pull myself up. And I asked you, I was like, how do I start doing pull-ups? And I think before I let you answer, I was like, should I come and do pull-ups every day? Or like, should I just like hang on the rig? Like, what do I do to make this happen? And you're like, yeah, you just show up every day. Like, just keep showing up. And then at one point, you're going to do something where it's like, huh, I didn't know that that was possible. And, and I remember, like, and that actually became, I'm really not saying this to blow smoke, that really became like kind of the mantra of like, okay, I know like mentally there's a lot of healing that needs to be done, like mentally and emotionally, spiritually, there's a lot of healing that needs to be done. Physically, there's a lot of healing that needs to be done. And when I looked at that as like a big thing, it was way
Yes.
too much. I was like, there's no shot any of this is gonna like there's no way. I can't get from point A to point B. But when it was broken up into like, actually no, just like show up. Like just come to the next thing and do it and do the thing that's in front of you. And then before you know it, you'll kind of look back and be like, whoa, that I did not realize the progress that was being made. And I think CrossFit ended up being a very cool physical representation of like the healing process that was going on, holistically of,
Yeah.
like you get little calluses and you start saying, oh, I can like pull myself up a little bit more than I could 2 weeks ago. And then it also is like, yeah, like, okay, whether it's just showing up to like a counseling appointment or like showing up to just talk to someone or show like just these little things. It's like you don't have to solve the whole problem. Like just come to do the next thing.
Yeah.
And I think with CrossFit, it was like, okay, I can come in and just do the next thing. And like that WOD
Yeah.
looks impossible, but it's not because at the end of the day, we're all giggling at the front and chit-chatting at the end. Like it's not impossible, it's
Yeah.
you're gonna be done with it and ultimately have a way better day because of it. And I just think it ended up becoming a very cool symbolic representation of like everything else that was going on.
That's awesome. That's so
Yeah.
cool. And
Yeah.
we talked about this before we started recording, but thank you for plugging that. I will send you the $5 Venmo after this.
Absolutely. Thank you
No,
so much.
yes, no, but jokes aside, right? And that is such a cool representation of like how this all works, right? It's like, I don't know, maybe I'll riff a little bit. Sometimes it's
Yeah,
like
dude.
there's such a focus on, and which, by the way, I'm going to throw this out there. Goodness gracious, I hope I remember this correctly. You just got your first pull-up too.
Yeah,
Your first
yeah,
strict
yeah.
pull-up. Yeah, you did it like
Yeah.
last week, and didn't a few of us just looked at you and you were like, "Did you just do a strict pull-up?"
Yeah,
And you're like,
you
"I
were
think I
next to
did."
me and I landed on the ground. You went, that's the face of someone who hasn't done that before. I was like, yeah. Yes.
And I think that was, you didn't. You tell me, you didn't do any separate special thing. You didn't do any necessarily extra work. You just showed up and just kept showing up, kept putting in that effort, right? And that's part of what I'm trying to do with this, right? Is to show people that it's like the benefit of just showing up and putting in the effort, walking in the doors to a CrossFit gym is going to have so many other benefits. Obviously, in the gym, right?
Yeah.
Keep showing up. You're gonna get your pull up, and guess what? For some people, it's gonna take longer than and
Yeah,
for some people, it's gonna take shorter, and that's okay. But if you keep showing up, it'll happen, right?
for sure.
And then that idea of just showing up continues to resonate once you leave the gym,
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
we all like to say, right? So the best hour of our day. It's also only 1 hour. There's
Yeah,
23 other hours, right? So
that's
what
right.
can we take from inside the gym and use that outside the gym to help us out? So that's so, beautifully said, beautifully put from your perspective.
Thanks. Yeah, no, I think
So
it can't be overstated. Like I know it really does just have a huge impact. And it just does affect more than physical health. And it does that too,
yeah,
which is awesome. But it does just affect more.
it's, agreed, 100%. Now, okay, you did mention something earlier, because I
Yes.
think this does kind of correlate to the career change that you're getting ready to come into.
Yeah.
You mentioned that you were in the Middle East for a stretch of time.
Yeah.
Um, and I don't know what you were doing there. So whatever details you are able or willing to share, because
Yeah.
who knows, right? What was it that, because, okay, let me reframe my question to get myself straight here. You were in Arizona you came to Arizona to work for an insurance company.
Yeah.
A few years later, now you're working in the Middle East.
Yeah.
Yeah, how did that transition happen? What took you out there in the first place?
Yeah. So the simple answer of that is I think I realized there's so many refugees living in Phoenix. I knew I wanted to, I loved my job. I love the people I work with. I love the company. I love what it stands for. I knew I wanted to do something. There's something more that I wanted to do. And so one of the easiest ways that I saw around the valley was that you could teach English to refugees, which really was just like you kind of just talk with them. And then you'd help them with like an online internet program. And so I had gotten involved with a couple things like that, realized I was very bad at teaching English. They would ask, they would be like, so what's an adjective? And I was like, I don't know. It's like
It's a good question.
it's a word. Yeah. And
Yeah.
so I realized through that, I was like, wowzers, if I'm gonna actually try to teach people English, I should learn how to teach English. So I got certified to teach English. And at
Nice.
the end of that, it was like a little check yes or no. Would you be willing to do this in another country? And I was like,
Oh,
and in my head, I was like, yeah, like Spain, Portugal, that sounds awesome. I was like, yeah, let's do that. And I clicked yes, and I think it was 3 days later, I had an email from a school in the northern part of Iraq that was like, we need English teachers. Do you want to come? And
oh,
this is obviously the surmised version. Lots of thinking, lots of praying, lots of talking, lots of whatever. But at the end of the day, that's what ended up happening in the summer of 2022.
wow. And so you were there for what? About two
Two and a,
years,
two and a half. Yeah,
two and a
yeah,
half,
two
two
and a
and a
half
half
years
years.
too.
Okay. And then now you're getting ready to work your way back towards that. So,
Correct.
you are getting ready to go to law school, if I
Yeah,
remember right.
you got
And
it.
then what do you want to do with that law degree? So once you get out of law school,
Yeah.
where do you want to take
So I think so when I was there, I think teaching was amazing and I loved it. But just kind of recognized some bigger gaps and some things that were just kind of heartbreaking. And it's like, oh man, I'm kind of tired of just like my answer to people sharing really hard things being like, that sucks. I have no idea what else to do. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, and I think there's like there's just a holistic way of meeting with people where they're at. And so I'd met kind of through mutual friends, I met a lawyer there. He was from there, working with like a few other people, basically just like really for the voiceless, was just kind of working with people who really had no other option, and talked with them a little bit. It was like, wow, this is really cool. I had some friends here in Phoenix who were refugees from various places in the Middle East that just had a tough go, um, kind of in the administrative process here. And so it's just kind of like, okay, I can kind of see these pieces. And if I'm wanting to do something different than insurance or different than teaching, um, what's a trade, like a transferable trade that I could do here and there. And I basically came down to I could do nursing or I could do law school. And I pass out at blood. So I was like, that would probably not go well for anyone.
Probably out. Yeah, probably.
And
That's a good choice.
I remember taking biology in college and everyone being like, this is so easy. And I was like just sweating in the back. I was like, this is not easy. And so I was like, okay. And so it kind of was a matter of like, I was over in the Middle East. I got an LSAT study book, took the LSAT, and then kind of just kept taking steps. And yeah, doors kept opening. And yeah, basically was like, okay, this is something that I really want to do. I can see it being a long-term thing. I felt like, yeah, just kind of, it felt like, I don't know, this sounds cliche, and I know not everyone, whatever. It felt like the Lord was opening doors. I was like, I'm just going to do it. I'm just going to take steps through this and kind of keep seeing. So I applied to different schools and ended up finding one where I could be here for some of the time, but also in the Middle East for some of the time. And was
Cool.
like,
Okay.
I'm gonna give that one a go, and ended up
Yeah.
getting into it. And kind of another situation, I kind of blink and it's like, okay, well, that's happening now.
Well,
I
here we
guess.
are. Okay.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's really cool.
Yeah.
So, well, congratulations.
Thank you.
That's exciting. And so, yeah, what is the next? So then obviously you got your law school, you got the law program, and then working with, folks in the Middle East and,
Yeah.
kind of being that voice for them and working, working on their behalf. So that's awesome. That's
Yeah.
really cool. How do you,
Appreciate it.
get a cliche question here.
Yeah.
How have you been researching CrossFit gyms in the Middle East?
So yes. And
Yeah, okay, there we go.
unfortunately,
Please say yes. Okay.
unfortunately, Iraq there's not a plethora. I think there was one back in like 2017 or 2018 that some people from Europe had like put on. Is that
Oh, okay.
and I had gone to some like women's gym because that's like how they kind of do it. And they kind of did something adjacent to CrossFit, but not really CrossFit. And so what I ended up doing was did the onboarding with CrossFit North Scottsdale with Jen to get all the foundations, and then am gonna basically try to figure out a way to implement CrossFit workouts there. And hopefully the idea will be to like invite people into that and get to see if that's something they'd be interested in. So that because it's certainly not the end of the CrossFit journey.
That's really cool. All you need to have is your if you have at least your level 2, you can technically own an affiliate.
So, there you go. Only 2 levels to go.
There's other things. There's other things. Obviously, then you're running a business and all that stuff. But
you probably should be able to do more than 1.5 pull-ups before that happens.
Not at all. Not at all. Right. It kind of goes back to what we're talking about, right? It's like it's the continuation of just showing up. Right. It's like you look at most of the head coaches of professional sports teams, right? They probably weren't the best players, you know.
Yeah, sure.
So, but they have a way to coach it to get the best
That's
out of the
true.
people on their teams, right? So, somewhat similar situation. It's not always the
Yeah,
best athletes, the coaches, right?
that's right.
And so,
Yeah.
don't sell yourself short, right? Don't sell yourself short. Okay. Last question for you. Okay.
Yes.
And so I want to wave magic wand and put you in a time machine,
Yeah.
and you can go back and talk to let's say the version of Rachel that I'm going to give you a couple options, and you can
Yeah.
decide which one resonates with you more. Okay. Let's go with the version of Rachel that maybe you were in college and you had that friend that was doing CrossFit and everybody was making fun of him,
Yeah.
and you're like, yeah, yeah, that is silly, right? I don't know. That's probably not what
Yeah.
I said. Um, and let's say that version of Rachel, you get 5 minutes to talk to her, and she says, "Hey, my friend does this thing called CrossFit, and I don't know, he's pretty strong, but like a lot of people make fun of him. What's the deal here? What's the deal? I've heard these things. I've heard these stereotypes. People are getting hurt. Should I do this? Should I try it? What's your piece of advice for that younger version of yourself?"
I would say that's a very good question. I would say don't let stereotypes, which I think genuinely, I think stereotypes are probably masking either insecurities or ignorance of, just not knowing about something. And so kind of projecting like, oh, this is just, I mean, at least for me, I didn't really know what CrossFit was. So then I just said the first thing that I heard someone else say. So I'd say don't let stereotypes or intimidation be the reason you don't step foot in a CrossFit gym. Like,
Mm.
because it's intimidating. You walk in, most people know each other. There are people crawling around on their hands or doing bar muscle ups. They're like, where am I? This is so wild. And so it isn't like anything new is intimidating, but just it would be a shame to let stereotypes or being intimidated stop you from doing something that could actually like vastly benefit your life in way more than one way.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so I think it would just be, just be give it a shot and kind of like let people say if people are going to say the stereotype is that people work out intensely and really like the people they work out with, great. You should be a part of that stereotype. That's awesome.
Sign me up,
Yeah,
right?
no kidding, dude. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Very well said, very well put. And, thank you so much for sharing your story. Obviously, there was a long road that led you to CrossFit. And, I think there's a lot of people that end up walking into a CrossFit gym because of the more physical benefits of it, right? Maybe it's weight loss, maybe it doesn't matter what it is, right? Doesn't
Yeah.
need to be, but it's more so looking at it more from the physical perspective. And I think your story sheds some light on other ways that
Yeah.
being a part of CrossFit, being engaged in CrossFit can be beneficial along with the physical things, right? Because it is still an exercise program. It's an exercise methodology. There's going to be physical benefits.
Yeah.
But it also, your story shows and really highlights and gives a real example of how that how that benefit manifests in ways outside of the physical side of things. So thank you for sharing. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for giving the opportunity to. It's fun to talk about it.
You got it. All right, Rachel, it's been a
Yes.
pleasure. And
Likewise.
everybody listening, we'll talk to you on the next one.
Awesome. Bye, guys.
All right. See ya.
See ya.
If you enjoyed this episode, please consider sharing with a friend. To get notified of future episodes, please follow the show on your favorite podcast app so you can continue to hear these stories. For more behind-the-scenes content of everyday CrossFitters, follow on YouTube and Instagram at Silverback Media. Until next time, this has been the Silverback Media Podcast.